World Cup referee Rob Dieperink dies at 38 weeks after FIFA World Cup removal. Dutch football referee Rob Dieperink has died at the age of 38, just weeks after being removed from the list of officials selected for the FIFA World Cup following an investigation in the United Kingdom. Now we explore the truth, the mystery, and every detail of this story on our AI podcast.
Imagine spending 20 years climbing to the absolute pinnacle of your profession.
Right.
You've built this career where your entire professional value relies on unquestioned integrity and authority, really.
Yeah, you have to be above reproach.
Exactly. You reach the very top. And then in the span of just a few weeks, you lose your career, your reputation, and ultimately your life.
Wow.
And this is all over an allegation that the legal system itself actually drops for lack of evidence.
It's a terrifying gap, honestly, between legal innocence and, well, corporate exile.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We've got a stack of sources here detailing the sudden and, frankly, incredibly tragic trajectory of a Dutch football referee named Rob Dieperink.
And just to frame our analysis right up front for you listening, we're navigating this timeline based strictly on the reports and the statements provided in our sources.
Right, keeping it strictly to what's documented.
Exactly. We're looking at this as a high-stakes case study of institutional behavior. We really want to explore the systemic friction that happens when the justice system, which obviously relies on a strict threshold of evidence, collides with global corporate risk management.
Because risk management relies on protecting a multi-billion-dollar brand, not necessarily finding the absolute truth.
Exactly.
Usually, we love to find the fun in learning on this show, but today's topics requires us to navigate a heavier, much more complex story impartially. We're unpacking a highly respected career that unraveled at lightning speed.
It really did.
And to help process how something like this happens so fast, it's almost like climbing a mountain, right? It takes decades of flawless, invisible performance to reach the top, but it only takes one single slip to tumble all the way back down.
Yeah, it's this concept of reputational asymmetry. It takes years to build, but only one unverified claim to just instantly bankrupt it.
So let's talk about the scale of that bankruptcy, because we need to understand the scale of his career first.
Yeah.
We're talking about Rob Dieperink. He was a 38-year-old man, recognized as one of the Netherlands' leading football referees.
And being a referee at that level, it is not simply a weekend hobby.
Right.
The sources indicate he had extensive international experience. He was a really prominent official in domestic competitions, too. Reaching that tier requires a grueling physical and mental regimen.
Like actual professional athletes.
Oh, absolutely. Referees at this level are subjected to constant performance reviews, immense public scrutiny, and they have to pass rigorous physical fitness tests that rival those of the athletes they officiate.
That makes sense. They're running the whole game, too.
Yeah, and they operate in this incredibly high-pressure environment where every single decision they make is broadcast and dissected globally.
So you essentially have to be flawless, but also mostly invisible to the average fan, all while managing 22 elite athletes whose adrenaline is just completely through the roof.
Right, invisible but totally in control.
And the sources show Dieperink had just reached what is arguably the absolute peak of that invisible climb. He was selected for the upcoming summer FIFA World Cup.
It's huge.
It's the ultimate validation in this field. It means the global governing body views you as among the absolute best on the planet.
But then the timeline fractures shortly after that milestone.
Yeah. Unpack that for us.
So in April, Dieperink travels to England. He's there to officiate a UEFA Conference League match. It's Crystal Palace versus Fiorentina, which is a major European fixture.
Okay.
And according to the reports, an incident allegedly occurred at an address on Wellesley Road in Croydon.
Right.
Dieperink was accused of inappropriately touching a teenage boy and allegedly attempting to persuade the boy to come to his hotel room.
And the mechanics of what happens next are just staggering. He finishes his officiating duties for the match, and upon his return, he is arrested.
Yeah.
And the sources deliberately highlight this one crucial detail. This arrest happened right in front of other UEFA officials.
Which is, what's fascinating here is the mechanism of authority for a sports official. It's incredibly fragile.
How do you mean?
Well, they trade in this aura of unimpeachable integrity. They have to walk onto a pitch and command respect simply by blowing a whistle.
Right, because if the players don't respect you, the whole game falls apart.
Exactly. So the moment an arrest happens publicly, literally in front of peers and superiors, that carefully cultivated aura shatters instantly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the optics here are just staggering. It's like a Fortune 500 CEO being led out of a massive shareholder meeting in handcuffs.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
The shockwave must have been immediate. It's not just about the legal reality in that moment, it's about those optics. The visual of a top-tier official being apprehended like that triggers an automatic panic response from the governing body.
Long before a single fact is even verified, the professional damage is initiated the second the handcuffs click. It honestly doesn't matter what the ensuing investigation uncovers.
But here's the paradox of this whole timeline. Because if that public arrest was the definitive professional death blow, the private reality behind the scenes was moving in the exact opposite direction.
Right.
The Metropolitan Police step in to investigate. And the sources detail that this wasn't just like a brief inquiry. The Met Police spokesperson stated they conducted a thorough investigation.
And the timeline here is critical for you to keep in mind. Officers responded to the report on April 9th.
Okay.
The report specified that they actively gathered and reviewed all available evidence. They specifically pointed to the examination of CCTV footage and digital devices.
Let's break down the mechanics of that digital footprint in a modern investigation. Because if you are operating in a highly surveilled area like Croydon in Greater London, your movements are not a mystery.
No, not at all. London is widely recognized as one of the most heavily surveilled cities globally.
Oh, for sure.
You have street cameras, hotel security cameras, transit cameras, and a digital device examination isn't just, looking at a few text messages.
All right, it's way more advanced than that now.
Exactly. Modern police forensics involve cell site analysis. That pings a phone's location against local cellular towers to establish a precise geographical timeline. They extract messaging app data, call logs, internet search history.
So they essentially have a comprehensive map of a person's physical and digital life over the entire time frame in question.
Completely.
And within just 2 weeks of the arrest, the authorities reach a definitive conclusion. The official police statement read, "Following these inquiries, they concluded that the evidential threshold had not been met. No further action will be taken."
Yeah.
So the criminal case was entirely closed due to insufficient evidence.
And that phrase, evidential threshold, had not been met. That is the pivot point of this entire case study.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, and I'm going to push back a little on the ambiguity of that phrase.
Okay, go ahead.
Because if the police, who have the authority to pull all that CCTV, to seize your phone, to map your digital life, if they do all of that and drop the case entirely within just 2 weeks, doesn't that effectively mean he was cleared?
I see what you're saying.
Like, the system looked at the hard data and said, there is nothing here to prosecute.
Yeah.
Shouldn't his life just go back to normal?
You would think so, but the friction lies in how different systems define that word, cleared.
Okay.
We have to parse the specific mechanism of the justice system here. Insufficient evidence to meet an evidential threshold is a very precise legal standard.
Right.
In the criminal justice system, the state must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to strip a citizen of their liberty. That is a deliberately high bar designed to protect individuals from wrongful imprisonment.
So the state is saying they just do not have the data to meet that steep requirement.
Exactly. The legal system is not necessarily declaring a false alarm, per se. It is declaring an inability to prove the charge.
Ah, I see.
However, that legal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt is fundamentally incompatible with how a global corporate brand like FIFA calculates its own exposure.
Let's explore that calculation, because we are looking at a scenario where the actual legal authority, with all the tools, closes the book, but the corporate entity looks at the exact same scenario and decides the risk is still completely unacceptable.
Yeah, because massive global entities operate on a standard closer to the balance of probabilities, or honestly, even just the presence of risk.
Right.
They're not looking at a criminal threshold. They are calculating brand liability, sponsor relationships, and massive public relations risk for a multi-billion-dollar tournament.
It's almost like an automated firewall in a secure corporate network, right?
That's a good analogy.
The firewall doesn't hold a thoughtful trial to determine if a piece of incoming code is actually malicious. The moment it detects a suspicious signature, it just severs the connection entirely to protect the mainframe. So FIFA acted like a firewall, not a courtroom. The accusation was the suspicious signature, and they severed the connection.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. A firewall doesn't care about the nuance of an investigation. It only cares about neutralizing potential threats to the system.
Which brings us to the career fallout and the deeply diverging reactions from the different organizations governing Dieperink's life.
Yeah, this part is striking.
The sources confirm that FIFA permanently removed him from the World Cup match officials list.
Yeah.
Their statement was incredibly clinical. They said, FIFA can confirm that Rob Dieperink has been removed from the list of FIFA World Cup match officials.
Just entirely cut off.
Exactly. And crucially, they did not reverse this decision even after the police dropped the case.
The police said no further action, and the firewall remained up.
Right.
FIFA essentially decided that associating with an individual who had simply been accused, regardless of the police findings, posed too much of a risk to their product.
But the KNVB, which is the Royal Dutch Football Association, they took a completely different stance. His local direct employer actually supported him.
And you really have to think about your own employer for a moment to understand this divergence.
Also,
Well, imagine if the local police dropped an investigation against you. Your direct manager, someone who works with you daily, who knows your character, they might look at the lack of evidence and welcome you back with open arms.
yeah, that makes sense. They know who you are.
But the global, faceless HR division at corporate headquarters, they don't know you. They are calculating liability on a spreadsheet.
Well, yeah.
So to the KNVB, he was a dedicated colleague, but to FIFA, he was just an unacceptable line item of risk.
It's like trying to put smoke back into a bottle. Even after the fire is declared a false alarm, the smell just lingers.
That's exactly it.
Let's bring Dieperink's own voice into this dynamic.
Yeah.
Because following the dismissal of the police investigation, he actually spoke to the Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf. He vehemently maintained his innocence. He stated, "It makes me very sad that I have been wrongly accused."
And he really detailed his navigation of that reputational asymmetry we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
He emphasized his transparency, noting he fully cooperated with the police investigation from the very outset. And he immediately gave full openness to FIFA, UEFA, and the KNVB.
He pointed specifically to the speed of the police clearance, too. He stated, "The allegations were refuted, and the case was dismissed within 2 weeks after an adequate and thorough investigation by the police."
Which is incredibly fast for an investigation like that.
It is. He did everything a person is supposed to do when falsely accused, right? He cooperated, he let the data speak, the authorities dropped it. Yet he was forced to express this profound disappointment.
Because of the World Cup.
Yeah, he expressed gratitude for the KNVB's support, but he added, "It is a pity that FIFA has decided not to appoint me for the World Cup. I am, of course, disappointed about that."
And disappointed honestly reads as an incredible understatement when analyzing what was actually taken from him. He was trapped in an impossible scenario. He navigated the legal system perfectly. But how does an individual regain trust and reclaim their life's work when the ultimate governing body of their industry flat out refuses to acknowledge the legal system's findings?
It is a profound professional exile.
Yeah.
You spend decades building the reputation. You are hit with an unverified claim. The police clear the board, but the gatekeepers of your profession permanently lock you out anyway.
Yeah.
And the sources detail that this professional exile preceded a final, deeply tragic chapter.
The narrative shifts very abruptly here.
It does.
The timeline of this entire story is incredibly compressed. The incident and arrest in England took place in April. The digital and CCTV investigation lasted 2 weeks.
Right.
The permanent removal from the World Cup followed right after.
Yeah.
And just weeks after losing that pinnacle career achievement, Rob Dieperink died.
He was only 38 years old.
Yeah.
And we're going to stick strictly to the parameters of the sources regarding this. No official cause of death has been released to the public.
Which is important to note.
Right. The Dutch newspaper AD reported that police were carrying out an investigation after the discovery of a deceased person near the street where Dieperink lived, though authorities haven't indicated whether there are any suspicious circumstances surrounding his passing.
And the KNVB released a public tribute that really captures the suddenness of the event. They stated they were deeply saddened, describing him as a highly valued referee with international experience, but above all, a fine and dedicated colleague.
So what does this all mean for his legacy? I mean, how does the football world, or how do any of us even process a timeline this fast and this tragic?
It's hard to grapple with.
We have a man who reaches the top of his field, faces an allegation. The legal system finds insufficient evidence in just 14 days. The corporate world exiles him anyway, and suddenly his life is over.
Synthesizing the facts we have paints a devastating picture of the psychological whiplash he experienced in those final weeks.
Yeah.
While the investigation into his death obviously remains private, the undeniable reality of his final days was defined by a profound public, professional loss.
A completely devastating loss.
And a loss that he publicly stated was based on a false accusation. Plus, a loss that the global governing body enforced despite the legal system finding insufficient evidence to proceed.
Right.
He was forced to watch the defining achievement of his life evaporate over a claim the authorities literally could not substantiate.
Let's briefly recap the sheer velocity of this timeline, because it really reveals the incredibly fragile nature of a life's work.
Okay.
In April, you are officiating a major match, you're on track for the World Cup, you are arrested in front of your peers, triggering immediate institutional panic.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks, your life is subjected to a forensic microscope location data, messaging history, street cameras. The police analyze all of that data and they clear the board. No further action. The justice system operates exactly as it is designed to.
It did its job.
But the corporate firewall operates on entirely different logic. FIFA calculates the PR risk, deems the mere presence of the accusation too toxic, and permanently rejects you.
You give an interview mourning the loss of your dream while maintaining your innocence, and then weeks later your life ends at 38. It just demonstrates how a professional identity built over decades can be irrevocably dismantled in a matter of days.
Completely independent of legal guilt.
It really forces us to examine the systems that govern our lives. We have the legal system requiring hard evidence, and the corporate system requiring only the perception of safety.
Which leaves us with a final, I think, vital question for you to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We live in a deeply interconnected era where massive institutions prioritize brand safety above absolutely everything else. They are algorithmically conditioned to react instantly to the mere presence of an accusation, just to protect their market value.
Right.
But as individuals in a free society, our fundamental protection is the presumption of innocence. So, if a modern police force utilizing digital forensics and comprehensive surveillance, if them dropping criminal charges is no longer enough to restore a person's professional standing,
Yeah.
have we quietly accepted a society where simply being accused operates as an unappealable career death sentence?
Wow. When the legal system says insufficient evidence, but the global market decides evidence doesn't matter, the individual is just left with nowhere to turn.
Nowhere at all.
Well, thank you for joining us as we work through this incredibly complex deep dive. Keep asking tough questions about the information you consume and the institutions that react to it. Until next time.
Okay, one question for you. What are your thoughts on this tragic case? Do you believe organizations like FIFA should suspend officials immediately after an arrest, or should they wait until an investigation is fully complete before making such decisions? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.